Welcome to Battle Rankings. My name is Svetlana, and this is your editorial ghost before the content. I have allergies really bad. They're better now, but while I was recording, they were not great, and you can hear it a lot. But we must continue on with the show, so enjoy. All right. Welcome to Battle Rankings podcast. Today I am joined with Alex Higginbotham.
Higginbotham, there we go. You got it.
Awesome. I was looking at my notes as to who should I get over here, and I'm like, Alex. I'll trade Alex.
That works.
So, what first got you interested into Flames of War and Team Yankee?
So I've done Flames of War a lot of years. My dad sort of got into it during version 2 and introduced it to us as kids. And I got into Team Yankee specifically in the last 4 or 5 years because of just I like the change of pace from World War II stuff. I like the modern equipment and being able to sort of have more lethal units on the battlefield compared to like World War II games.
Okay. And so you've been playing as since a kid.
Yeah, Flames of War, yeah. And then again, okay. Team Yankee the past 4 or 5 years.
Okay. How long have you been doing tournaments then for Flames of War then, since you've been playing a hot minute?
I'd never actually done any Flames of War tournaments.
Okay.
So yeah, never made it to any of those. And the Team Yankee circuit really just the past 2.5 years, I'd say. But I've really been on the Team Yankee, able to make it to a bunch of those.
2.5 years and already making it to Masters. It
worked out.
That's a good track, yeah. What's your favorite armies to play then? I'm sure you've changed armies throughout the years.
I actually have not. I started Soviet and I have stuck Soviet because that's what I was in Flames of War. And when I then learned in Team Yankee that my Soviet tanks could kill now NATO main battle tanks and not have to shoot at King Tigers and Panthers, I was hooked.
That's always nice, knowing you can kill the worst ones on the table. So you made it to Masters this year. Were you expecting to make it to Masters?
I knew I was going to be borderline as I kind of just kept track of my points. I knew that I was going to be close, and I think if memory serves, I was 17 or 18, so I was just outside. But then someone in that top 16 wasn't available to make it that weekend, and I was able to get the invite. So I was super excited when I got the news.
Oh, so that's exciting. And then how far were you driving to it then?
It was about 4.5 to 5 from down where I was in Tennessee up to Indianapolis.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's not bad. And then you moved right away, and so you're like, perfect timing.
Yeah, it was.
Well, that's good. What was your expectations in going into Masters, not having been gone before?
So my expectation, I was able to make it 2 years ago as well.
Okay.
My expectation was just to try to do better because the first year I went 2 years ago, I was 0-6, barely got any points and was just annihilated pretty much each game. It wasn't competitive. So the expectation, the hope for this year was just to improve upon that and to do better.
So how did you study for Masters?
I did not. Maybe that's why I didn't win. I said I really didn't. I had a lot of other things going on in life, so the main focus was just get the correct things painted up beforehand.
Okay. So what kind of army did you bring?
So I ended up bringing a Soviet T-62M company, and then what I had to work on, I did not own any of the T-72B models because we had to have that one super heavy tank unit. So that was the change. That was the change this year. So that was the focus was getting that sort of platoon ready to go prior to, and everything else I'd already owned.
Okay, so how did the Mcguffin rules and the only being allowed to have one infantry unit impact your strategy planning with your list and just your general overall play?
It completely changed it for me. I normally, in any of my sort of standard lists, bring a whole BTR 60 company or battalion, I guess. And I like to do this because I like to have infantry platoons that can both have enough platoons to both defend and have infantry on the attack, and then have enough spigots to cover the board. I argue that's one of the best Soviet pieces of equipment is that spigot, that rate of fire 3 missile. And I didn't have that this year. So I had to just pick. I ended up going with a BMP-2 platoon as my 1 infantry so that I got sort of 10 missile shots off the BMP-2s. But that was a huge effect of how I built out my list.
Okay, so that's good. So what were your thoughts, like your initial thoughts of McGuffin rules?
I liked it a lot, primarily because it forced people, again, me included, to change up their play style. 2 years ago at the 2021 Masters, if memory serves, about 80 to 85% of people had heavy infantry companies. And so all the games were very artillery focused, slower moving. And the McGuffin kind of forced us to bring out some of the new models, all of which look really cool. So that was fun, again, to paint up the bees, and to force a little bit of a different play style from all the players.
And then what influences your play style then?
Just the ability to do combined arms, the biggest thing in my play style. I always want to have infantry and tanks doing things together, just like they do in real life. And I've had a lot of success with that.
All right, so you finally made the trip from Tennessee. You're at Masters. How did your list perform?
I'd say it would perform very average. There was a lot that a lot of things went well. A lot of things didn't go so well. I knew that a couple of them of the Czech players, one of whom won, they were sort of able to out hoard the horde. And that was challenging when when you play in sort of a red versus blue tournament, unless they play Iraqis, I always kind of count to outnumber my opponents. But since I had to fight a Czech player once, I was, uncomfortable with being outnumbered as the Soviet. I prefer the other way around.
Yeah, you're used to having the horde.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you feel about your matchups then?
I really enjoyed all my matchups overall. Played a lot of great players. The toughest player I played was Chris Jackson. I got the tournament started off with getting 1-8'd by Chris. I still had a chance in the game, but my formation ended up breaking since I was a little careless. And then for me, like more specific example, the American RDF platoon was, rather the company that I had to fight in my last game. That was one of the most challenging things when he had 3 different platoons of those gone to ground hammerhead things that I needed 6s to hit, and having that many on the table was really tough in one of my matchups.
Yeah, the RDFs they're fun to play with, not fun to deal with.
Yeah, I'm sure they're fun to play with. I'm on the receiving end of it always. I'm sure it's fun.
I have a whole entire. That's what I'm working on here.
Yeah. I ain't playing you.
I'm working on it for Gen Con. I might be playing. I'm the ringer. So
okay, very cool, very cool.
At Gen Con, I'm bringing an RDF lab list. So it'll be a nasty list to deal with if I have to play.
Mm-hmm.
What lessons have you learned from Masters?
To actually not be afraid to defend that defend stance. Because normally when I go to sort of a normal tournament, I'm always trying to attack. None of us like having our stuff off the table. I always kind of want to have all my platoons on the table and want to try to, press forward my Soviet advantage first. But ironically, I won both my defends and lost both of my attacks at Masters. I went 1-on-1 on the maneuver. So that's something I need to pull out more, in particular when I'm playing the higher level players. Is don't be afraid to defend.
Yeah, some players I know John Meyer, he likes to play defend a lot, and he kind of gets joked on a little bit about like turtling out the action, but I guess it just depends on the players and how they play out their strategy, how it works out for them.
I've been on the receiving end of his defend with British and West German infantry. So every time I see him, I go defend and try to make him come after me.
trying to poke the bear out of a
Mm-hmm.
hole he doesn't want to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so you've played several. You played 6 people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, did you play any of those people before?
I have. I played Chris Jackson, again the winner, and who then won a historic. I played him a couple different times, and I've also played a couple of the Minneapolis guys before. Occasionally, those guys make it down to the Tennessee, Kentucky area. So new matchups there, and then I played the gentleman from Canada for the first time. So I don't make it up to Canada to play. I played him for the first time, and then a couple folks out on the East Coast that I played for the first time also.
So were any of those matchups fairly memorable, like challenging, or posed a different strategy than what you're used to seeing?
Mm-hmm. Well, I do see it before, but playing my Iraqi game versus, I believe his name is Jace from Canada. That was one of the matchups that I won. Very memorable because I won on the last turn with an RPG 7 blowing off the last T-72 off the objective as he was attacking. But that's a game where, again, normally I would, in my normal mind, think that I want to attack, force him into reserves. Instead, I ended up expending one of my defend. And although he definitely pushed my objectives very hard, I was able to kind of squeak out that win at the very last minute. That's the first or second time I've won versus Iraqis. As Soviets, I normally do not perform well versus Iraqi lists at all.
Iraqis get interesting, especially if there's ever the pariahs or whatever that they have. Those get fun.
I think that one's the Israeli. That non-rated fire.
That's
that one's Israeli. But the Iraqis just have so much stuff. Jace ran at me with T-72Ms, which are pretty solid, and then sort of are overpowering my T-62s and could still beat up my T-72Bs. It's a very challenging list, and he played it wonderful. The dice just kind of saved me at the very end with a lucky RPG shot that blew him off the objective on turn 6.
Yeah. We had a good conversation last week when he and I talked about his time at Masters. His list was interesting. So did you meld your strategy kind of around those opponents if you were familiar with them, or did you kind of have a set battle plan based upon like the terrain, or what was your thought process?
Very much per sort of opponent and stance. What I didn't do, since I knew it was a Masters, and it was going to be very competitive games. I definitely wasn't worried about sacrificing platoons. In a normal tournament where you're trying to win, I kind of try to think about getting those 8-1s and how to win without sacrificing platoons. But in the Masters, where I know that every player is extremely high level, I was focused on those games that I won on just winning at any cost and having to sacrifice whatever platoons I need. And then if you happen to get the Mcguffin as well, that can even boost you of normally getting a 6-3 and actually make it a 7-2, even if you lost a bunch of platoons and getting the win.
The Mcguffin made it interesting because we actually had a few very rare 5-4s as well, and that was kind of a strange situation because they haven't seen 5-4s since some of the earlier versions. Just with like how the points worked out.
Yeah. I had one of those. My last game was one of those. We were playing. I think it was Dust Up or Scouts Out. And yeah, he definitely won, took the objective from me, but he lost his Abrams platoon. And my Bs never even made it on the board. So I ended up, because of that, still getting 4 points out of the deal, even though I lost.
Which, hey, points are points. They get you. Always. They'll bump you up a little bit. And was there anything that you anticipated that wasn't there, or like in your battle plan, or any unanticipated events that you're just like, oh, I wasn't expecting this sort of formation or that use of a formation?
It was that RDF company. I would definitely say I've seen platoons plenty of times when people play as Americans. I had not seen someone bring the full company to a game before. It was very challenging to have 3 different platoons that needed 6 to hit. I think if you've only got one, you can either try to use artillery Or if he's not on it, he'll try to get above him on terrain to shoot down and take away that short terrain. But 3 platoons was really tough not to crack.
Yeah, that's a lot of RDFs. That's what, at least 30 or so.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think about three. Yeah, I mean 30 shots for sure, or maybe I can't remember if the rate of fire. It should only be like 20 shots, because he had 10 of them. So at least 20 rounds coming back at you, which is a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot. So how did you finish Masters?
So I ended up finishing 7th, kind of right in the middle of the pack, with a 3-3 record. The first day I had 1-2 and lost 1, and then the second day 1-1 lost 2. But again, from 16th the year before up to 7th was a pretty, for me, exciting finish to be much more competitive this year.
And I'm sure that kind of built some confidence for the next years to come if you have the chance to get into Masters again.
Yeah, 100%.
So does this make you want to try out more Flames of War tournaments and not just Team Yankee tournaments, or are you kind of just still sticking with the Team Yankee stuff?
Probably Team Yankee for now. We'll see how the new job and the move, how much time I'm able to devote to it. So for now, sticking to the one, and then maybe depending on what other gaming there is in the local area, if I find a Flames of War group, maybe I'll end up doing that more. If that's what people tend to play down here in Georgia.
And then, so if someone's going to the Masters first time, what would you tell them? How would you tell them to prepare or what to expect?
Just to expect every game to be incredibly tough. In a lot of tournaments, if you play sort of a 1-day, 3-day tournament, I've sort of tend to average playing sort of one veteran player, one intermediate, and then kind of one beginner. So normally you kind of tend to get the win versus the beginner and the intermediate and have a real good game with a competitive player. At Masters, it's all competitive, experienced players for 2 days straight. So it's a lot. So don't, you just can't be upset if you lose a game big, because it's going to happen when you're playing some of the best players in the country.
And then if they're brand new to the game, they're kind of like flirting around with the idea, what would you tell that sort of player?
I'd say play with other people's models and kind of figure out what you like. Because, you might, it's always a bummer when you sort of get into an army and then find that you don't love it. So try to play with your friends' models, check out and see what sort of play styles you like. If you like to do an infantry style, a tank play style, and then once you figure out what you like, then you can pick a nation that sort of fits your play style.
And then someone who's just like super ambitious to get to Masters.
I would say if you're ambitious, you're trying to go to Masters, you're probably trying to finish high in tournaments. I'd encourage you that you don't necessarily have to win all your tournaments to qualify. I, for one, have never been the overall number one player winner at a tournament. I seem to be cursed with second many times. I've lost to John Muir several times at Hard Knocks games in Kentucky, and I'll always finish second. I'll kind of get 2 big wins and then a tie, or 2 big wins and then a loss. So I don't get discouraged if you're doing that. You can still, like I said, I've finished second at probably 4 or 5 this year. I still qualified. So you can still get enough points just finishing high up. You can still get plenty of points to qualify and get to go play some of the best players in the country.
Is there anything else that you would like to add in or make a comment about with your experiences with Masters or anything like that?
I was kind of repeat that. Don't be afraid to defend. I'm going to have to look at doing that in some other tournaments and other spots, because I was kind of in shock that I lost both of my attack rounds, which is my favorite stance. I lost both of those and won both the defend. So I kind of have to take a look at that the next time I get into a tournament and maybe defend more.
I think kind of what I've learned through just messing around with the game with John is knowing what stance I need to pick and what stance my opponent needs to pick in order to get the end result that is most favorable to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like learning that matrix and being like, oh, if I pick attack and they pick defend, I will for sure have a chance of getting this mission, which is going to make I can't do that mission. It always ends bad for me, right? And just kind of like learning that out a little bit, because I think that changes it a lot if you know how to play your chances.
Yep. And then there's always the chance of the bad roll. Even when you do that, I've done that before sometimes, and then gotten the worst scenario, which is what happened on one of my attacks. I wanted him to defend, I wanted to attack, and then pulled the worst mission and I lost. But yeah, definitely set yourself up for success by doing that. To hopefully mean that there's just one bad scenario out of the 6 instead of like 3 or 4 that you don't.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on and talking to me. It's been great. And hopefully I'll see you at another tournament sometime. Well,
For
maybe
sure.
not since you've moved, but maybe.
Yeah, for sure. You never know. It's a small world, thankfully. So
yeah, it's a small world, and John likes to bring me to as many tournaments as he can.
Very good. Well, take care. Stay safe up there in Ohio. Thanks for giving me a chance to
have
talk
fun
to you.
there in Georgia.
Always. Thanks again, Lana.